Hey people, Fernando doing another video for the More Survivalist, taking a second to talk about this very sad case, Nicola Bulley. She was recently found after 23 days of being missing. After, well, everyone assumed that she fell into the river and died, drowned, and by all accounts, that's exactly what happened. This is still an ongoing investigation. Her body was recently found in this river, a mile away from where she most likely fell. And there was a lot of, conspiracy theories as of, she ran away with a lover, and it always happens. Trust me, I've seen many of these cases where people go missing. By far, the most common answer is the most obvious one. So there's a car accident. Yes, someone is probably dead on the side of the road, like it happened with the Pomar family. Maldonado goes missing in Patagonia. Where is Maldonado? Well, he is exactly where he was supposed to be. He was dead on the bank of the river, and he was not found because the people that he was working with, these activists / terrorists, they would not allow for the rescue personnel to search in that specific area where his body was. Obviously enough, they were trying to hide his body for political gain until they got an order from the judge and they were forced out of there, and that's exactly where Maldonado was found. Now, in this case, I think it's important for you to understand these things, especially if you live in UK. This is just another factor. This is just another indicator of the times that you're in. You're looking at a very serious, one of the worst economic crises the country has been going through in recent times. It affects the amount of manpower the police has. It affects your chances of getting proper treatment in the NHS, medical services, treatments, anything that involves expense from the government. Don't hope for much because you're unlikely to get it. The story of this woman is very sad, very unfortunate. Could it be that she was kidnapped and someone dumped her body? Yes, this is still, as far as I know, this is still being investigated. But usually what happens is if you fell into a river, that's where you are. And if you had your cell phone in a little bench that you often go to and the dog is right there, then yeah, the idea of you running away to Thailand with a lover is a little bit far-fetched, especially if there's not really a whole lot so as to have much foundation for that theory. The most obvious, the most simple one is usually the right one. Now, what is very concerning here, other than, of course, this tragic death of this woman that leaves some children behind and a grieving husband, is that this is not the damn Paraná River. This is the Paraná River, which is a place where a lot of people drown in South America, in Argentina. I actually know of a woman that drowned in this river in a jet ski accident. She was hit in the head. She was found, of course, but usually what happens, and this is something that I think you guys should know, is when someone drowns in a river and they go under, it is often the case that the body is found 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later is usually when that body is found, 14 days. Why? Well, because that's about the time it takes for decomposition to reach a certain level by which there's gas forming inside your organs, your intestines, all of your cavities and in your chest. That gas basically turns you into a balloon and you float, and that's when they found you, because it's a lot more difficult to find someone that is under all of this water. Now, why the difference between 2 weeks, 14 days, and 23 days when this woman, Nicola Bulley, was found? Well, because of location. We're talking about the Paraná River in South America. That's a little bit of a different weather than winter in UK. A lot colder means that the decomposition process takes a bit longer. About 23 days. I would assume that's the right number. After the autopsy, they will probably know exactly what happened, but that is by far the safest bet. Now, we have to notice something else. And one more thing before I move on. For people that think, oh, this river is just not big, you can drown. You can drown in this river. In the case of Maldonado, it was like knee-high, the water. But if it's winter, if you're wearing heavy clothing because of how cold it is, all of that gets wet and the current is strong, you can drown in a river that is knee-high. It happens very often, a lot more often than you probably assume. And this is probably deeper than that. if she fell, also keep in mind, if she slipped, she tripped, she was trying to get something, she just slipped and fell, she probably hit herself when she fell. Maybe she injured herself. But just getting wet on all of that clothing, if the current is a little bit stronger, even if you could stand up, the current drags you away, deeper water, you start tumbling, and yes, you do drown. All right. So for all of these people that were saying, "Oh, it's not deep enough," yes, trust me, you can drown very easily in water that is like a bathtub. It's not a bathtub; it's a river. So all of these things, and it does get wider and so on. But she was apparently found in a part of the river that this is where she was found. It is not all that big. Right, and she was found exactly where she was supposed to be, in a fallen log that was catching debris from the river, from the current, and unfortunately her body was found there. How is it that she was not found? Well, because of this other problem that I want you to understand, which is the financial problem, the lack of funding, the lack of personnel in the police force, and this goes for the NHS, medical services. All of this affects you. You have to understand that you will not get proper treatment in the NHS as of right now because there's not enough money. It's broke. The country is going through a financial crisis like they haven't seen probably since the 70s. So you're looking at a very serious issue, lack of funding. There's no money. That's why they didn't find this woman, because this is not the damn Paraná River. It's one thing to try to find someone here. It is a completely different story to find someone, not even here in this. You seriously, you couldn't put together a search team that found a woman that was drowned about there, right? And yes, it is a mile long, right? She was found a mile and a half away. You don't have enough people, and you just cannot have volunteers diving into this thing. The legal implications of that, it's insane. You can't do that. But if you put together a somewhat respectable search and rescue team, this woman should have been found soon. I'm not talking about 24 hours, not talking about 48 hours, but about a week. Seriously, it took you could not find her. You had to wait until she started floating away and she was visible from the surface. You could not put together a serious team so as to find her, and just had one amateur diver, giving it his best shot. This is really embarrassing, and this is very concerning because it just shows that if you rely on police for your own security, which most people do, especially in UK where your options of self-defense are quite restricted. You're not even allowed to have pepper spray, for crying out loud. But you're relying on a police that is underfunded. It's been like that for years now. It is looking very bad. You have to be aware of this and plan accordingly. The kind of stuff I talk about all the time. And by the way, you have my books available in Amazon. Links there below. Street Survival Skills is probably one I would recommend for you to get right now so as to compensate for all of this. If your child goes missing, don't expect any serious efforts to be put together so as to find that child. So be extra careful with your security, your family, your kids, yourself, your loved ones. These are the realities that people in third world countries deal with. But if you're going through this for the first time, for a lot of people in UK, as they're going through right now, this catches you by surprise. You would have expected this woman to be found a lot sooner. But less than third world efforts were put into finding her. That is obvious, painfully obvious. This river, really, seriously, you're really having problems finding a woman that dragged in this thing? I mean, it is just, and the same goes for healthcare. What kind of healthcare can you expect right now from the NHS? It is terrible. Do you have your private insurance, a private health plan of some sort? Well, you probably should consider getting it, because it's not likely that you will get any level of quality care if you happen to need it. So all of this comes into survival and preparedness, at least the way I see it. So folks, that's going to be all for now. Remember, you also have bugging out and relocating and surviving the economic collapse, which you probably want to check into as well. See you in the next video. Take care.